Monarch 4B, external anatomy of the adult butterfly. First thing you see is the outer covering. The outer covering of the monarch butterfly is a material called chitin. It's very tough and colorful. So the colors of the scales on this butterfly are basically black, orange, and white. And that color combination tells the world that maybe you shouldn't mess with this butterfly. It either stings or stinks or sticks or causes some kind of grief. In this case, the cardiac glucosides picked up in milkweed tissue and transferred through the caterpillar and the chrysalis and sequestered in the body of the adult butterfly is nasty stuff. And if a bird takes on this butterfly, takes a few chomps, the message will be, "This is making me sick." And the bird might throw up, and birds are smart, they remember. And they remember not to go after something that's orange and black out there in the world. So other butterflies will mimic this color combination and avoid being picked up by that bird who has that memory of that color combination. So the colors are significant. Also, as a generalization, the colors on the dorsal side of a butterfly are there to let mates know what this butterfly is, so they don't waste time courting with the wrong butterfly. The underneath part is a different story. In general, it often blends in with the environment, a sort of a camouflage, a way to avoid predation. So the outer covering of a butterfly is important. Also in taxonomy, in this case, Lepidoptera, the order name for the butterfly moth group, means scale wing. And the scales on this butterfly are significant. A super close-up of the scales on Lepidoptera. Here are the scales set up like scales on a fish or maybe shingles on a roof. So it's protective in a number of ways. Often your mother told you when you were young to not pick up a butterfly because the powder would come off and injure the insect. Well, in the case of the monarch, those scales are tough. After all, they've got to fly thousands of miles on their migration quest. This is a close-up of the monarch surface. You can see the individual scales of black, orange, and white covering the surface of this butterfly. The scales are flat. On other parts of the body, the scales are elongated, like on the rear end of the abdomen. These are elongated scales that look like hair. On other parts of the body, you have elongated scales also, like on the legs of the monarch. Right here, you can see these little elongated scales are sensory. Notice the chitinous ends, little feet, little pinchers to allow this butterfly to cling. Other areas on the body include the surface of the compound eye, the proboscis. Everything that you can see on the butterfly is made up of chitin, usually a modified scale. The head, thorax, abdomen. Typical insect external anatomy. The three basic body parts of Danaus plexippus loaded with information. The first section for our discussion is the head of the monarch butterfly. First off, on a monarch butterfly, the antennae is loaded with information. Information for the butterfly and some information for us. We can tell a butterfly from a moth by the antennae. The antennae on butterflies are all knobbed at the end. There's a little club on the end of all butterfly antennae. On a moth, its cousin in the same order, Lepidoptera, they don't have a club on the end of their antennae. Might be a long filament, might be feathery, might have all kinds of shapes or sizes, but never a club on the end. So we can tell a butterfly from a moth by looking at their antennae. But the antennae on a butterfly is loaded with sensory information for that insect. Taste, smell. In the case of the monarch, it's important for its migration. It's a sun compass in coordination with its brain and its eyes that can detect from light how to put together a way to get to its overwintering site. Butterflies have huge eyes. They're good for movement and good for color. You can see the eyes in this close-up of a monarch head. You can see the proboscis over here. You can see elongated scales that resemble hairs and various white spots. So the head is dominated by the compound eyes. This is a decapitated monarch. You can see the elongated scales resembling hairs. You can see basically this is the neck portion. These are some little muscles that are still shown. You can see the huge compound eyes on either side that almost cover the head. Good vision in butterflies. The compound eye of a butterfly is relatively complicated. You can see the light receptors, each called an ommatidium, resembling these little ice cream cones in the picture. Each compound eye has roughly 20,000 of these little individual receptors of light. They're really designed for motion. Each of those little lenses can pick up motion. That's why it's difficult to get close to a butterfly. They'll flit away. Also, the eyes are able to pick up colors. The monarch butterfly lives in a world of color, and it uses the color as it approaches different flowers. So the compound eye is a special structure found only in the arthropods, basically the insects and the crustaceans. Here's a picture of the palps. It's hard to see. This is an attempt to highlight it. The palps are surrounded by lots of elongated hairs. These are the palps next to the compound eyes with the proboscis in the background. They are for tasting and smelling and sensing. You can notice the palps right close to the proboscis. Notice the proboscis is coiling and uncoiling. You can also see two parts of that proboscis because this butterfly has just emerged. And at emergence, the proboscis comes out in two parts. Those two parts must fuse with a Velcro-like fusion process, or the tube will not be able to nectar, will not be able to get nourishment from flowers. Once that fusion of the proboscis occurs, that butterfly goes out, looks for water, looks for nectar, looks for trouble once that proboscis is ready to probe. The second section, the thorax, is for the attachments for locomotion. The wings for flying quite far, and the legs for basically hanging on here and there. So you've got 4 big wings and 4 walking legs, plus 2 smaller legs that we'll indicate later as the brush feet. Here's a monarch butterfly. Its head and its thorax. The abdomen is down here. Attached to the thorax is a pair of huge wings. The order Lepidoptera probably has the largest wings of the insect orders. They function as one pair, and they are, in this case, for flying long distances. The monarch butterfly has a pair of forewings and a pair of hind wings, easily seen from underneath. One way to tell males from females on the monarch, not most of the other butterflies, but on the monarch butterfly, you can see the male wings are thin-veined, and there's a little spot on one of the veins on the hind wing, which is a pouch filled with pheromones. Pheromones are chemicals that waft in the air and act as a perfume. So this male monarch will utilize that perfume strategy for rendering female mates more cooperative. The female wing will tell you that she is different by the wing veins being thicker than the thin male, and notice she has no pheromone pouches. So the female wing is different than the male wing, and very quickly you can tell the males from the females by just looking at their wing. The forewings on the monarch butterfly, they can fly great distances with those wings and the hind wings. They can still fly great distances with the front wings only. With the hind wings gone, they lose their maneuverability, more likely to get caught by a bird or some other predator. But doesn't stop them from flying maybe 100 miles a day. The monarch butterfly is in a large family of butterflies called the nymphalids. And the nymphalids are sometimes called the brush-footed butterflies. Actually, it's the largest butterfly family on the planet. Sometimes the monarchs are grouped into their own little family, but the brush-footed butterflies, of which the monarch is usually considered a member, has this little structure up near the first part of the thorax, which in fact is the forelegs. So the forelegs that they don't use for walking is used for sensory. So up near the palps, up near the proboscis, up near the head end, where sensory is important, the brush feet add to the sensory structures on the head of the monarch butterfly. The monarch butterfly has 4 walking legs, not 6, 4 walking legs. Has 6 legs, but only 4 are used for walking or hanging from a twig. One pair of the hind legs near the end of the thorax, and the other pair are the mid legs, which are in the middle of the thorax. The 4 walking legs on the monarch butterfly have hooks on the end. These hooks are important to cling with. They don't usually walk with them, but they will cling. Their first job at clinging will be to cling from the chrysalis when they first emerge with crumpled wings. These little fringes here are loaded with sensory structures. And in fact, a female monarch will go from flower to flower, scratch with these little hooks, and pick up a taste of that plant. If she can taste milkweed, she'll lay an egg on it. If she tastes something else, she'll press on. So the feet on a monarch butterfly are sensory as well as for clinging. So you can see on this foot, this would be really hard to disengage. They're really effective with their little hooks. The monarch abdomen has 9 segments and 3 fused segments. So the first 9 have spiracles for respiration, a pair of spiracles in the segments on the abdomen. The last 3 fused segments are mostly for reproductive equipment. We've got the head, thorax, abdomen. The head is loaded with sensory structures. The proboscis, the palps, sensory. The compound eyes, vision. And the antennae for all kinds of things, sensory. We've got the thorax for locomotion. The wings are attached and the legs are attached. And the abdomen. Lots of stuff internally, but only segments on the outside. The monarch butterfly, lots of external anatomy.